Hey everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Miss Vaishali Neotia, the co-founder of Maxius, a venture that solves problems for enterprises using AR or VR technology. Vaishali is a graduate of Osmania University and she started entrepreneurship back in 2011. Hi Vaishali, welcome to ELI.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Vaishali, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. So I am Vaishali Nutia. I've been running a company called Mercius for the last decade. We do a lot of work with augmented and virtual reality, mixed reality. So the umbrella term would be extended reality. And now now it's sort of reached a point where we've been able to develop our own product in the extended reality space. It's a no-code platform which allows engineering companies to repurpose their existing CAD data and create training material out of it, which can be viewed and consumed in an extended reality environment. So that's something that we're working on. Uh, Other than that, I've uh, you're free to sort of ask me any questions. I can keep this interactive. I have also parallelly done a lot of courses over the last decade, along with the entrepreneurship track. I've done entrepreneurial and innovation courses from leading universities around the world. There's Stanford, there's the Indian School of Business, startup leadership program. I've done something with the UN as well, been on US exchange programs. And other than that, I've also had a community driven aspect to my journey. So I have been a staunch supporter of DIE, diversity, or DEI, you can say, diversity, equity, inclusion. I have chaired women in engineering committees across different organizations, conferences. I've served as the president of the alumni committee for women in entrepreneurship by the Goldman Sachs ISB 10,000 Women Entrepreneurs Program. I also mentor a lot of students, uh, students who are looking at entrepreneurship, who are looking at starting up. And I'm happy to talk about technology, about entrepreneurship, spirituality as well. That's something that's very close to my heart. And yeah, just I'm just so interested in a lot of things. So I'm happy to have a conversation around freewheeling, the candid conversation around anything. Um, so yeah, ask me anything. It's sort of like the AKA session.
Sure, sure. Sounds like an interesting journey, and we'll slowly get into different aspects. Of course, we cannot cover all the aspects, but how about we start with your initial days of entrepreneurship? Like, what made you choose a uncertain path like entrepreneurship? I think you have a good education. You could have gone into corporate career. Why not?
Yeah, I think that doesn't have much to do with with the education or with it. It's just sort of like a choice, right? I mean, I could still go into the corporate life, and maybe I will. At the end of the day, it's sort of like what your heart tells you to do at a particular point in life. And uh, it just so happened that for me it's been it's not that I planned it, but it just so happened that it in 2010, in my final year of engineering, I actually worked on a Facebook application for the Football World Cup, the year that Spain won, with my co-founder. We were friends back then, and we worked on this application, and it was something that we just did out of mutual interest, love for the game. And and that app really took off, and we had so many users and people interacting with it from around the world. And that kind of kickstarted the idea of being able to create, innovate, and do something that could be useful to the world at large in some way. And I think that's essentially what kickstarted the idea of starting up, of being able to uh, give life to people's ideas. So how we initially started was, of course, we were a services company, and we created web apps and Facebook apps and mobile apps for people who came to us with ideas which were larger than life, and we're like, okay, we'll work with you on this. We'll help you, give it some structure, give it some form, and give it life for you. And that's how we started. And it was an initial. Of course, with everything, there are challenges. So there are a lot of challenges for us as well. The year that we started, of course, entrepreneurship wasn't as supported as it is today in terms of starting your own company and doing something without work experience. And so of course there were a lot of naysayers. We had a lot of people saying, no, why do you want to swim against the tide? In fact, one of the newspaper articles on us actually had that as the headline. Swimming against the tide. So yeah, so there was a lot of a lot of opinion coming from everywhere. And we just stood firm, and we are like, no, we want to do this. We were extremely inexperienced, of course, without the right mentors or role models. So it was a struggle for a long time. It still is in many ways, but of course the struggles change over a period of time. And we were completely bootstrapped, and we learned a lot in the initial days of our journey. So I'll just say that it was an interesting start. And I think the one thing that kept us going, and still keeps us going, is um, the excitement and what we were doing, and the fact that we believed that we could do something, and we could innovate, and we could do what other people weren't doing, giving life to ideas which would be turned down elsewhere, or people, of course, if they have to get something developed, they can't afford it. It's too expensive. So so we were the one sort of plugging that gap. So I think it was exciting. It's been exciting, it's been interesting, it's been an interesting journey. There are a lot of lessons learned, of course, which I'm happy to share, because like they say, true wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes. So I'm happy to talk about that as well. But yeah, it wasn't something that I'd planned. It just sort of organically happened. And I think there's just been no looking back. Yeah.
We'll talk about the lessons. But before that, I'd like to get into one interesting point you raised. You said when you started, there was not much support for entrepreneurship. And looking back and comparing it with the current days, would you say entrepreneurship has become easier today compared to what it was earlier? If so, what are the factors that makes entrepreneurship easy today?
um I wouldn't use the word easier, because starting your own company and trying to do something on your own is never easy. As are all challenges in life, right? It's apples to oranges comparison. I wouldn't say easier, but what I am saying is, the support ecosystem in terms of the right ingredients to sort of make the right dish. In terms of the ecosystem, the encouragement, the financial support, the mentors. I think all of those things are very important. So when you look at entrepreneurs, when you look at the basic idea of starting a company and running a business, is essentially about finding particular problems which are worth solving, and you find a way to solve it, and then you look at how to scale that, right? That's essentially how typically an entrepreneur would work. But what's also important in this is not just this aspect, but also the external factors around it. So for example, having the right mentors to guide you on the journey, to be able to help you along the way in terms of the right guidance, the right advice at the right moments, dealing with things that you don't know, because we don't know what we don't know. Having the right clients to be able to support you on your journey, to take that bet on you and be like, okay, fine, these people are they know how to do this, let's give them a chance. And not just endless pilots, like pilot purgatory, but also being able to move beyond it, being able to look at real use cases and deployment of what the entrepreneur is working on. And other than that, of course, the investors, so people literally putting their money on you, supporting you along the way, because as is with any road trip, you're making the journey, and you need fuel for that journey. And so it's important to have that. Of course, that doesn't mean that your entire journey is about doing rounds of petrol pumps, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs end up doing, or get confused with. I mean, the petrol pump is not the destination, right? It's something else. That's part of the journey, and so it's important, but it's not. You haven't finished your, or you haven't reached your destination if you've gotten funded. Funding is a part of the journey, right? So anyway, so the investors, and of course the right environment, in terms of opportunities, platforms where industrial bodies like say NASCOM, or in Hyderabad we have T Hub. Organizations like these, they bring entrepreneurs, clients, investors together and give them that platform and opportunity to interact. I think those are important as well. Having the right kind of conferences, and the right kind of like I said, platforms to be able to bring all of these different stakeholders together. So all of these are important parts of this entire journey. And I think to your question, a lot of this is more prevalent today than it was when I started, especially in the city I started. And Hyderabad, for example, I mean, where we're from, and where we basically grew, it's come such a long way, and there's so much support and so much happening around supporting entrepreneurs there now. So yeah, there's been a massive mindset shift in terms of that support for entrepreneurs. So in that sense, there's more there's more of that ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, the journey itself is of course still, like I said, just as challenging. So yeah.
Vasily, one thing I noticed in your LinkedIn profile, I see that you raised funding from the Boeing company, and I also see quite a bit of your clientele comes from the aircraft industry, like Bombardier and Indian Armed Forces also. Can you tell us how did you enter this segment, and maybe share some lights on
Right,
how
right.
the
So,
initial.
like I said, all of this has essentially been with Red, with our product, the no code platform I talked about for manufacturing companies. So it was incidental. I mean, of course, with manufacturing, we initially started out with the idea of being able to approach the aerospace and automotive industries. And so some of this was organic. Of course, the Boeing company investing in us was brilliant validation, was a great opportunity. We looked at them as a strategic investment. And the Indian Army, of course, we've had a long-standing relationship with them. I think right from the beginning, maybe around 2012 or 2013, we've been working with the Indian Army. Over a period of time. Of course, at that time we didn't have the product Red, but we were doing other things for them. They were actually one of the customers that we were doing the service aspect for. Right? They have an idea, we're trying to give it life, and so we've had a close association with them for a long time. Of course, with large organizations, it's always a whole different set of challenges that you face in terms of dealing with them, in terms of finding the right avenues and the right places to move forward. And so that was again a lot of learning for us in terms of navigating with some of these hierarchical organizations, and the bureaucracy, and of course the rules and regulations that are part of it. So there's a lot of learning. It took us a while as well to be able to make inroads. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting journey, and we're still of course looking at after of course last year's situation, and how manufacturing companies have been affected. A lot of the customers and the teams that we've been in touch with have been furloughed over the last year, and now people are just starting to pick up the pieces, come back. The industry as a whole has faced a lot of changes. um, you know uh, there are reports which talk about how innovation that would have come in over a period of say the next 4 years is now going to be happening within the next 15 months, because everything's been supercharged, right? There are organizations who've not even had a cloud presence, for example. They've completely been on-prem. They've been forced to adopt the idea of remote working and then scramble to become digital. So there's a lot of change that's happening, a lot of innovation that's happening. And yeah, so I think that again was an interesting part of the journey. It's been challenging, and now of course we're looking at defense as one of our strongest avenues of getting Red off the ground in terms of large scale deployment. So we're still working with that. We were looking in other countries as well, to be able to help them with their training needs, using the red software. So yeah, it's interesting and another exciting phase.
I'm sure it is interesting. Vaishali, can you tell us what is your vision with this venture you are building? Where you want to take it at the, probably 10 years later or 20 years down the line?
um, the thing with the industry that we're in with extended reality, so from the beginning we've been very clear that we're looking at finding industrial use cases of extended reality as a technology, right? We strategically have stayed away from entertainment and and gimmicky use cases because we have believed that the technology can serve real industrial use cases which is essentially what we've been working on. We're still very aligned to that vision. We still believe that AR, VR, MR, or like I said, extended reality um, has a lot of wide ranging application across industries with very real use cases. Training is just the tip of the iceberg. The entire way that we as humans communicate or assimilate information is predominantly through our eyes and ears. And it's sort of like why books are made into movies. Because when you see something, when you practice it on your own, it's so much more retentive than if you were attending a lecture on it or you heard about it somewhere. And so the power of this technology is that it makes everything immersive, right? So now, like for example, I have to learn how to use this laptop. And of course, I've just bought it and maybe I've never used a laptop before. So for me, the smart thing to do would be to open the training manual and look at it. But how many of us ever do that with anything that we buy? And so we just sort of start working with it. We imagine we'll get it at some point of time. We can probably make it work to some level. And there are a lot of things that we may not understand or may not have found because those are intricacies that we've not been able to work with. Now let's make this a much more complicated machine with a lot of parts, with a lot of buttons, with a lot of things that you have to do with it. And then it starts becoming more difficult to understand what works how. And when you're given an industrial situation where anything that you're doing, if it's not the way it should be done, you will probably have a lot of issues. The machine could go could get corrupted. You could create, you could back up the entire go to market scenario. You could delay processes, you could cause a lot of monetary loss, right? Before that, I just want to wrap up the last point. So like I was saying, there's a lot of application for extended reality, and yeah, I just think that at some point it'll become as normal or as regular as having smartphones, to have an XR device. And we're heading towards that because it does revolutionize communication in many ways. And by communication, I mean, between humans and machines, between, machines to machines. It's just a whole different sort of dimension that we're opening up. Yeah. But yeah, so just with challenges, right? Um, well, how much time do we have for this question? Because
We have
they're constantly there's so many challenges in every aspect of your entrepreneurial journey, and they're all different. Like I was saying earlier, the kind of challenges that I would have faced, say 10 years ago to 5 years ago to yesterday or to last year, they've all been different. I think the important thing to keep in mind is, like we believe in the idea of meditation, right? It's easy to meditate when you're when you're in a very beautiful surroundings. When you're in beautiful surroundings, when you're in greenery, or in the Himalayas, it's all fine. But the real test of being able to meditate, being able to reach that state of equanimity with yourself and the surroundings, is when you're able to find that calm within the chaos of everyday life. There's so many times that that I have consciously like stopped and thought, oh my god, like can't I just get a break? Like why is everything happening at the same time? Or like this is not working or that's not working and this problem has come up, and everything just sometimes just overwhelms you and comes together, right? And you want to think, just for some time, can I just not get a break? But the thing is, that is what life is. We can't sit and say, oh, we want a break, because you don't suddenly stop breathing because your lungs want a break, right? At the end of the day, it's about finding, the thing that you can control is yourself and how you deal with things. And I think what's worked for me is figuring out how I deal with those challenges. And I'm not saying it's been an easy journey. That's been learning in itself. But that's really what works for me now, and what something that I've learned as an important lesson. It's about how we keep our calm, and we're able to figure out what needs to be done irrespective of whatever comes our way. It's sort of like, if you're prepared, you can handle anything that comes your way. If you get adrift and lost and depressed and down in the dumps for everything, then the only person you're hurting is you yourself. And challenges will come, things will become so overwhelming at times that you feel like, I just want to break. And then you can take that break as well. You can just sort of take a weekend trip somewhere, or do what needs to be done to make sure that you are in the right state of mind and being to handle situations. And one of the things that I will definitely say is, and something that I learned the hard way, I think it's of absolute importance and priority that we give our health utmost precedence over everything else. So sometimes, especially with the immortality of youth, we often think that we can abuse our bodies, abuse our sleep cycles, our food cycles, and all of that. And it doesn't matter. Maybe for some time it won't matter, but at some, there will come a time when it will, and it'll matter insanely. And what it'll do is it'll affect your ability to handle situations, to work, and your efficiency to work. So it's sort of like, before anything, whatever's being done, whether it's starting your company, whether it's joining a job, being a freelancer, being a homemaker, I think it's of utmost importance to take care of our health. And when I say health, I'm using the WHO definition. So it's not just your physical, but it's your mental, emotional, social, psychological, all of these different things which constitute you as an entire being. And that's really important to sort of just keep us going in whatever we're doing. So yeah, I would say that is something that would help with any challenge that comes along the way. And challenges will come in many forms, and it won't always be at the work front. There may be things in your personal life, in your in other aspects which come. And because we are the center point or the common entity in all of this, we think we can keep things separate, but it doesn't work that way. Everything affects everything else. So yeah.
So Vaishali, I think we are almost up with the time, and here is my last question to you. Think
Sure.
that you are talking to someone who is just like you, but 10 years younger than you. How do you
Okay.
tell her or him about your lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur, and
Uh-huh.
probably if any other messages you have for them
Mhm.
to start their journey.
Right. I think one of the things that I would definitely share is that, if you're starting out with setting up your own company, um, have the right expectations around it. Everything that we hear and see around us is not necessarily the whole truth. Like Jack Dorsey says, behind every overnight success, there are 10 years of hard work, sweat and tears that nobody talks about, which is a very real thing. So going in with the right mindset is important. Expecting that I will become successful in 1 year, or within 5 years I should have this much money, that much money, or the entire point of what I'm doing is to raise like $5 million, or to sell to Facebook or whatever. Like, you can have these aspirations, but be realistic as far as possible. And that will come from reading, from interacting with people who've been there, done that, from being in touch with what you're planning to get into. And so for that, it's important to have the right mentors. Definitely have mentors going in, and you can choose the kind of mentors you want. It's a two-way process. So you meet a bunch of people, and then you realize that you connect with a particular set of people, or they're from the relevant industry that you're targeting, or they have the kind of experiences that you think would help you, or you're able to have a very candid conversation with them, or you appreciate or respect what they say, or based on their journey. you want to be mentored by them. So definitely, finding the right mentors. Two is making sure that you have enough money to get you by for a certain period of time. And I'm not saying by money, I don't mean that before you do anything go and raise like $1 million. No, what I mean is have enough to make your ends meet, to be able to come show up to work every day, to have some peace of mind in terms of being able to focus on what you're building or developing, to be able to go and do market research in terms of meeting customers, meeting people, doing calls, some of these things. So it's important to have that initial sort of fuel which you need before you start that road trip, right? Start on that road trip. And I think the third thing is something that I believe in. I think a certain, and this is the third M, right? So I've talked about mentors, I've talked about money, and I think the third M is a little bit of masochism. I think that's important if you're starting out as an entrepreneur. You have to be prepared to have, to torture yourself in some way, and that could be in the form of facing rejections, being ridiculed, being discouraged, sometimes living on peanuts, or having to I don't know, work like like really put in effort, work sometimes like weeks at a go. It could be anything. The point is you should be prepared to know that it will not necessarily be a smooth or easy ride in any way. There isn't a lot of security. You don't have the monthly salary coming in, and the cushion of somebody else dealing with the repercussions of your decisions. Because being an entrepreneur means you're essentially more than the coolness of being the CXO. It's about taking the decisions, and it's about being able to stand behind them, and it's about being able to deal with the repercussions of those decisions. And decisions are always good and bad only in hindsight. When you take them, you're taking it thinking it's a good decision. So even second guessing isn't the best thing to do. Once you've taken a call, go ahead with it, stick with it, and deal with the repercussions, whatever they may be. This is something that I would definitely, share it in terms of things that I've learned are important when you're starting out.
Okay. On this note, I think we have come to an end of our session. It was a great pleasure to host you here at ELI, and I think our audience would have got good lessons from this video. Thanks for your time, Vaishali, and our best wishes for Marxius. How do you spell it? Am I spelling it correctly?
You are spelling and pronouncing it correctly. I mean, it's a proper noun, so you can use whatever pronunciation you want. I mean, we call it Mercius, but yeah, I mean, anything goes. It's proper noun. Yeah.
Pleasure hosting you. That is it for today's episode. We'll be back with another exciting entrepreneur. Stay tuned to ELI.